نحمده ونصلي على رسول الكريم ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Respected listeners and viewers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today we shall try to read and understand few more verses from chapter number 3, that's Surah Aali-Imran, starting from verse number 121. Verse number 121. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. In the name of Allah, the most compassionate, the most merciful. وَإِذْ, and when غَدَوْتَ مِنْ أَهْلِكَ, when we left your family, O Prophet Muhammad, peace be on him, in the morning, تُبَوِّئُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ, to post the believers, مَقَاعِدَ لِلْقِتَالِ, at the stations of the battleground. Wallahu Sami'un Alim, and Allah was all hearing and all knowing. إِذْ هَمَّتْ طَائِفَتَانِ مِنْكُمْ, recall, when two parties amongst you were about to lose their courage. إِذْ هَمَّتْ طَائِفَتَانِ مِنْكُمْ أَنْ تَفْشَلَا, remember and recall when two parties amongst you were about to lose their courage. وَاللَّهُ وَلِيُّهُمَا, while Allah was their protector. وَعَلَى اللَّهِ, and upon Allah, فَلْيَتَوَكَّلِ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ, should believers always put their trust. وَلَقَدْ نَصَرَكُمُ اللَّهُ بِبَدْرٍ, and certainly Allah granted you victory in Badr. وَأَنْتُمْ أَذِلَّةٌ, when you were too weak. فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ, so fear Allah. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ, so that you are grateful to Him. إِذْ تَقُولُ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ, recall when, O Prophet, peace be upon him, when you were telling the believers, أَلَنْ يَكْفِيَكُمْ, is it insufficient for you? And you made the rabbukum, that Allah shall your Lord shall reinforce you بِثَلَاثَةِ آلَافٍ مِنَ الْمَلَائِكَةِ, by 3,000 angels, munzalin, which are sent down. Bala, why not? In tasbiru, if you show patience, وَتَتَّقُوا, and fear only God. وَيَأْتُكُم مِّن فَوْرِكُمْ, and if your enemies fall upon you, هَذَا يُمْدِدْكُمْ رَبُّكُمْ بِخَمْسَةِ آلَافٍ, your Lord shall reinforce you with 5,000 angels. مِنَ الْمَلَائِكَةِ مُسَوِّمِينَ, well marked for this purpose. وَمَا جَعَلَهُ اللَّهُ إِلَّا بُشْرًا لَكُمْ, but Allah made all this as a glad tidings for you. وَلِتَطْمَئِنَّ قُلُوبُكُمْ بِهِ, and so that to reassure your hearts. وَمَا نَصْرٌ إِلَّا مِنْ عِنْدِ اللَّهِ, otherwise victory comes only from Allah. Al-Aziz, who is exalted in might, Al-Hakim, and all-wise. لِيَقْتَطَرَفُمْ مِنَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا, so that Allah might cut down a section of disbelievers. أَوْ يَكْبِتُهُمْ, or suppress them. فَيَنْقَلِبُ خَائِبِينَ, and they'll leave you as a disappointed lot. لَيْسَ لَكَ مِنَ الْأَمْرِ شَيْءٌ, you have no role in this thing. أَوْ يَتُوبَ عَلَيْهِمْ, whether Allah forgives them. أَوْ يُعَذِّبُهُمْ, or punish them. فَإِنَّهُمْ ظَالِمُونَ, because they are the wrongdoers. صَدَقَ اللَّهُ الْعَظِيمُ. As a verse, meaning of the verse makes understand, you might have felt it. It's about war, that's Battle of Uhud. Just a small background, so that we can update our knowledge, and then we can understand these verses better. You know, when Muslims are spending 13 years against all the odds and hardships in Mecca, under divine command, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, advised his companions, his followers, to migrate from Mecca to a neighboring town, that's which was called Yathrib and later named as Medina Nabi al-Madina, around 430 kilometers from Makkah. And Muslims reaching there, situation was quite good, congenial atmosphere. Muslims felt themselves at peace because people of Medina welcomed them. Islam had already reached there. That we know how and why. And so they started living there. But the infidels or pagans Makkah would not allow them to live in peace. Because they felt if we allow Muslims in Medina to settle down, it may develop into a potential threat for them and therefore their ancestral religion. That is paganism and idolatry. They had expelled in their own way, pagans of Makkah had expelled Muslims from their city. And they were under this impression that no community or no tribe in Arab would give them refuge and allow them to live, because Meccans had established a monopoly due to Kaaba, and people in the Arab world used to respect them. And they were under this impression, how could any tribe allow those people to settle whom we have expelled? But that was not to be. People of Medina were so kind, so generous, that they welcomed Prophet, peace upon him, and his worthy followers, companions, whom we call Ashabi Rasul. And when they started settling down, pagans would not allow it. And just within 1 year, they made planning to have to invade Medina. We know that. And they organized an army under the leadership of none other than Abu Jahl himself. Abu Jahl was father of arrogance. He led a strong army of 1,000 people, armed people, having all the might and main at their disposal, according to the standards of the time. And when this news reached Medina, Prophet, peace upon him, had to take precautionary measures. And that was a battle of defensive battle, because as I explained, how a great revolt of 20th century, that is, a member of the House of Lords of Britain, Lord Headley, now Muslim, whose name was later Lord Headley Al-Farouk. He, in his book, explains how the near geographical locations of the first 3 wars which were fought between the Muslims of Medina and pagans and idolaters of Arab, their mere, forget about the rest of the things, their geographical location of the wars proves that Islamic war has been always defensive. So Badr was an example. We know Badr place is a field, Badr, so around 40 miles, that means around 60 or 70 kilometers from Medina, right? Imagine, it is just 60 kilometers from Medina. But on the other hand, it is around 370 kilometers from Makkah. So just geographical location, we can feel who were the aggressors. Medinites, Muslims who tried to come out and to defend their territory, or the people who came all the way around 400 kilometers to attack them. Similar about second war, what is discussed here, that's, okay, first let us talk about it. When that war happened, it was against all odds. Muslims were less in numbers. They had nothing to rather eat and to feed their families. They had no arms and armaments. They had no economic base. But when Quran asked them, Allah asked them, قَاتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ الَّذِينَ يُقَاتِلُونَكُمْ وَلَا تَعْتَدُوا. That's verse number 190 of Al-Baqarah chapter 2. Now, believers, time has come. You fight against your enemies who have come to fight you and finish you. You have to cut them to size. But وَلَا تَعْتَدُوا, don't cross limits. Even during war, don't cross limits. Because Allah doesn't love the transgressors. Okay. Ultimately, that fighting broke out. And before war was fought, the pagan army was celebrating. They were 101% sure that they are going to run over the whole Medina within no time. But that didn't happen. That was not to be. They were devastated. They were crushed by 1/3 of army who were physically not fit to fight, nor having economic base or financial strength, nor armaments. They say just Muslims had a couple of horses. Imagine, in the whole army, a few horses. Forget about all the people didn't have swords, as was the rule of the day. Few had arrows to fight. Meccan pagans were crushed. 70 of them killed. Their generals, like even Abu Jahl, the commander-in-chief, no more. Even their generals and lieutenant generals, like Utbah and Sheba, finished. Sent to hell by this small band of faithfuls. And many were, around 70, more than 70 of them were imprisoned. By whom? By this young band of Muslims. And the rest of the people fled to Mecca. But this created a tremendous hatred among, and a sense of revenge in Meccans. It was too hard for them to believe that this just few people defeated us. So they started preparations for the next war. It took them around 1 year to organize a better army, a strong army of 3,000. 3,000 at that time was a good one, keeping in view the opponents. They were just few in number. Under the leadership of Abu Sufyan, he himself led the army this time. 3,000 people, well armed, all the rations, all the supply lines intact, they had taken care, all supply lines are there. And it was and all food stuff with them. Not only that, it was for the first time, even other than men, women also joined war, just to encourage their menfolk. And there were dancing parties and singing parties just to encourage with all those anthems and slogans and songs, all kinds of songs, just express their solidarity with their menfolk. That we are with you, don't you worry. And there were, it was a long journey, there was make stopovers, and there were celebrations and everything. Okay, that was this pagans armies, 300 strong army headed towards Medina, and this time they had it too much. It was, of course, a thing to ponder upon for Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and follows, how to defend our geographical and ideological boundaries. And after due consultations, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, decided that we shall not allow them to enter Medina, we shall take them before that. Muslims came out, but the pagan army had reached just in the neighborhood of Medina this time. They were just 4 or 5 kilometers away from Medina. Those of you who have visited Makkah, Medina, during Umrah or Hajj, they know Uhud, that Mount of Uhud, it is just 4 or 5 kilometers away. At the most 6 kilometers away from Medina. Imagine this geographical location itself speaks who were the aggressors and who were the defenders. Pagans coming all the way from 430 kilometers. Muslims came out just to travel 5 miles, 5 kilometers. So that war took place there. Muslims, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, could organize at the most 1,000 people. 1,000, imagine, it was again 1:3. But, among those 1,000, there were hypocrites also, led by none other than head of the hypocrites. That's Abdullah bin Ubay. Imagine, he had a planning of his own. When war was about to break, when Muslims came out of, started coming out of Medina to defend their territory, Abdullah bin Ubay took it as a great opportunity for him. He advised his followers, hypocrites, who willingly or unwillingly rather had joined this war just to please believers, just to cheat and deceive them. Abdullah bin Ubay ordered them, no, let's not, let you move out of the war, we'll not join this war. Because giving an lame excuse that our advice has not been given any due thought. It was just an excuse. So 300 of them left, imagine. That too at the 11th hour. You can imagine how discouraging it is. How it was a moral, not a moral booster, but it lowered down the morale of the, obviously from world standards, did lower down the morale of Muslim forces who were now left just with 701. It was now 1/4, and even that 1/5 in numbers against that armed and strong Meccan army. So that is Badr. It finally broke out in Medina, just in the neighborhood of Medina. Prophet, peace upon him, as is explained in this verse what we are reading today, Prophet was Muhammad, peace upon him, was simultaneously, because he was also a Hasana, a perfect and the best example, best role model for in all the fields of the life. So he was a great fighter also. If he could deliver the best message in the best possible manner, he could deliver the message of peace, but simultaneously as a need would arise, he was the best general, best strategist, the strategy which we are following now. So he arranged the best, keeping in view, despite the few less in numbers being short of numbers, he organized his army. And last thing had happened, Abdullah bin Ubay taking away his 300 followers. He placed in a strategic manner a group of Sahaba at one place, 50 of them here, some there, some over the mound, and some in the front, just acting as a great strategist. Prophet did it. And finally war broke down. At that time, which we see today in the second verse what I'm studying today. Then when those 300 people left, it was of course discouraging. It lowered the morale of some people among the believers. Because after all, they too were humans. They were not extraterrestrials. They were not out without emotions and without. It was realistic that they started thinking, yes, what is it happening? So it creates some kind of discouragement among some believers. But it was about, they may lose it, but Allah was kind enough that their faith got strengthened. And when Prophet, peace upon him, explained them that we are fighting war not on the basis of numbers, just to gain, not to gain any territory, or not just to crush our enemies. It is simply for the sake of Allah. He asks us to fight, we should. If Allah wants that we should all of them should lay down our lives, and our blood should be shed in the deserts. This is the greatest opportunity for us to please Allah, because we don't fight for anything else but to please Allah. This strengthened them, and that discouragement vanished, and the fighting broke out. Though the fighting was not up to the mark, in the sense that Muslims were not victorious as they were in Badr. They lost the battle in a way that there were some reasons for that. Simply telling, we'll talk about that in detail when that time comes in Quran. This time I'll say simply, Prophet, peace upon him, had stationed 50 of his Sahaba at a strategic place behind them. Behind them was Mount of Uhud. Thinking Prophet, peace be upon him, as a strategist, maybe we are less in numbers. Enemy may take an opportunity to attack us from behind and will be taken by surprise. So he stationed 50 Sahaba at a strategic place that was towards the backside, where there is possibility that enemies may attack. But when war broke down, to start with, Muslims started heading, and the pagans' army were retreating. Muslims thought this is victory for us. So some of the Sahaba who were stationed, that 50 persons, some of them felt perhaps there's no need for us to stay here, since opponents are retreating, they are fleeing. So why should we be here? They left their posts, but some of them stuck there, but most of them left. It was what we call now as error of judgment. It was not a deliberate or intentional disobedience. It was a wrong judgment. But again, it was a disobedience, whether willingly or unwillingly, whether intentionally or unintentionally. So that, due to that reason. Incidentally, one of the commanders of these pagans was Khalid bin Walid. Imagine that Khalid bin Walid the Great, who later proved to be one of the greatest generals of Islamic history. That time he was with the enemies. And he was in search of the prosperity. He led a group of his own people and attacked Muslims from backside from that very weak point. And that created disarray in Muslim forces. There was distrust, frustration. Muslims were taken aback. They were fighting the army in front, but somebody had attacked from behind. So that was the reason, in short. That's what it was read today about this Battle of Uhud. But one thing to be taken note. Disbelievers had reached just 4 or 5 miles away from Medina, right? They were almost victorious. Muslims didn't succeed. It was a setback for them. And this was the greatest opportunity. They had reached Medina. They could enter, but due to reasons unknown, nobody can define it. Great historians have written about it. But they said we fail to understand why Abu Sufyan's army led by Abu Sufyan, why didn't they enter Medina? Because this was the best opportunity for them. What happened? Even though they were partly victorious, after finishing the battle, they left. They was back to Makkah. Why? There is no human explanation possible, but only one divine explanation. Of course, since some of the Muslims had disobeyed, so they needed to be taught a lesson. That what are the consequences of any disobedience, whether minor or major. But simultaneously, Allah would not allow the infidels to defeat Islam and attack or occupy Medina, because Allah was not with them. He was partly displeased with believers, displeased. But that doesn't mean he was pleased with kafirs or disbelievers. The way when 3,500 years back, when children of Israel, the Muslims of the time, were crushed by Pharaoh and his armies and his establishment. That doesn't mean Allah was happy with Pharaoh. No, Allah was displeased with children of Israel, Muslims. They had disobeyed their prophets, and they had forgotten that message of Islam. The same way, the only explanation possible that why Abu Sufyan's army didn't enter Medina when they were at the doorstep. They're just knocking at the door of Medina, but they didn't. They left behind. And it said that after moving back around 40-50 kilometers, Abu Sufyan, the idea came to Abu Sufyan, why did we lose this opportunity? Why didn't we enter Medina? He stopped his army, said, okay, we'll march ahead, we'll go back to Medina. But Prophet, peace be upon him, the great strategist, knew it well. After partly Muslims were defeated, enemy forces had left, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, despite all these setbacks, organized his armies again. Though many of Sahaba were killed in that, they assassinated, including Hamza the Great, whom we call Sayyidu Shahada Hamza, uncle of Prophet Muhammad, one of the bravest generals. He was also assassinated. He also got martyred. And Musab bin Umar, like that. But Prophet organized army and asked his followers, okay, come on, we shall follow that army of Abu Sufyan. Imagine, vanquished army following victorious army. This is unbelievable. No human explanation possible. Apparently they were the victors, Abu Sufyan's army. Muslim army was apparently vanquished. They had lost the battle. And what happened? The Prophet organized his army again, and then an army which was defeated. organized themselves, and they left to take on Abu Sufyan. If his en route will take him. When Muslims are headed towards, Abu Sufyan got news that Muslims are heading towards army. He lost his senses. He told people, no, don't, let us not fight. Let us go back and let us arrange some other ourselves again, organize ourselves. Next time, next year or sometime, we shall attack with more arms and strength. That was how Medina was saved. Okay, we'll talk about it in detail, inshallah, once it comes. It will be in under discussion in Quran also. Here it is verse number 121. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. About Battle of Uhud. Take it, keep it in mind. Why is Gadawta min ahlika? O Muhammad, peace upon him. Recall, when you left early in the morning from your family, that means when you are moved towards Uhud, to defend your territory and your faith together with your believers for army. وَإِذْ غَدَوْتَ مِنْ أَهْلِكَ تُبَوِّئُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ وَإِذْ غَدَوْتَ مِنْ أَهْلِكَ, O Muhammad, peace upon him, recall when you left your family early in the morning, تُبَوِّئُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ مَقَعَدَ لِلْقِتَالِ, to post your people, to your army, at this perfect, suitable stations in the battleground. Prophet was placing this group here, that group here, the archers here, sword fighters here, and like that. Wallahu Sami'un Alim, and Allah is all hearing, all knowing, that He knew what are you doing, what are you fighting for. So He took care of that. Then إِذْ هَمَّتْ طَائِفَتَانِ مِنْكُمْ, recall that too. When two groups amongst you, O believers, they also lost their courage. It was about that they would have lost their courage. Why? As I told you, when hypocrites left, it created some kind of discouragement among some Muslim groups. But they didn't lose. It was about Quran says, that two groups amongst you were about to lose their courage. That what is it? We are fighting against all the odds. Wallahu waliyuhuma, but Allah was their protector. Wa alallahi, and upon Allah فَلْيَتَّوَكَّلِ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ, should believers always put their trust. Then Quran says, وَلَقَدْ نَصَرَكُمُ اللَّهُ بِبَدْرٍ, O believers, certainly Allah did grant you victory in Badr 1 year back, in previous first battle. وَأَنْتُمْ أَذِلَّةٌ, when you were weak and lesser in number than what you are today. فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ, so fear Allah. Put your trust in Him. Why are you losing your this courage? Why are you feeling disappointed by doing so with hypocrites? You are fighting for God, not for anything else, not for territory, not for accumulating wealth, not to occupy territories. That's not the Muslim agenda of wars. Fatakullah, so fear Allah la'allakum tashkurun, so that you are grateful to Him alone. Didn't He grant you victory just 1 year back against a strong army when you were weaker than what you are today in Uhud? Then Quran says about addressing Prophet, peace upon him, إِذْ تَقُولُ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ, when such thing happened, hypocrites left and you were left just with 700 semi-armed, ill-armed forces, and you had to believe Muhammad, peace upon him. You as a commander, he was prophet, he was commander-in-chief also. He was head of the state. He was everything, because he was a total and complete role model for all situations. إِذْ تَقُولُ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ, remember, recall when you were telling, or you were saying to believers, أَلَنْ يَكْفِيَكُمْ, isn't it sufficient for you, أَيُّمِدُكُمْ رَبُّكُمْ, that Allah may reinforce, your Lord may reinforce you, بِثَلَاثَةِ آلَافٍ مِنَ الْمَلَائِكَةِ, with 3,000 angels, munzalin, to be sent down from heaven. That means the Muslims found, they could feel that enemies are 3,000 in numbers. Prophet, peace upon him, strengthened their army, their faith, taking out any kind of discouragement or disappointment which was created in their minds, and give them courage and strength. That don't you have faith in God? Where are the true believers? Isn't it sufficient for you that your Lord should reinforce you with 3,000 angels sent down? Allah has powers. Don't go by the worldly numbers. How many, even if out of 3,000, there may be 300,000. You're not fighting against numbers or anything. You're fighting for the sake of God. And Allah is with you. Your Lord is with you. He can reinforce you with Him. That doesn't literally mean that 3,000 angels would come with swords and fighting all that. Not necessarily. It's just Prophet said. Don't you feel? Don't you feel it is? Isn't it sufficient that your Lord should reinforce you with 3,000 angels sent down? Bala, why not? In tasbiru wa tattaqu, if you believers, it was Prophet, peace be upon him, telling his forces just to increase their morale, just to strengthen their faith. So faith. In tasbiru wa tattaqu, if you show patience, you show patience and you show piety and you fear Allah only. Yatukum min fawrihim. And if your enemies come on fighting against you, they attack you. Yumjitkum rabbukum becomes a alafin. Isn't it another? Your Lord can reinforce you with 5,000 angels. Malaikati Musawimin, 5,000 marked these angels who can defend you and help you. Then Quran simultaneously says it was just increase their moral strength in their faith. Quran says, "Wama ja'alallahu illa bushra lakum." But Allah made this only as a good news and glad tidings for you. Walitatmaina qulubukum bi, so that by these advices, by these sermons, by these affectionate words and these words of faith, so that your hearts get reassured, you regain your courage, and you reinforce your faith by all these words and the prophetic words. So that your hearts are strengthened and reassured by these words. Otherwise, وَمَا النَّصْرُ إِلَّا مِنْ عِنْدِ اللَّهِ. Otherwise, all the victory only comes from Allah. He doesn't need help from anybody, including angels. Does Allah need angels for help? Allah is the master. He's the Lord. As Quran says, وَإِذَا قَضَى أَمْرًا فَإِنَّمَا يَقُولُ لَهُ كُنْ فَيَكُونُ. When He decrees a matter, He says, let it be, and it is. It becomes immediately. He doesn't need. So the prophetic words were just to strengthen your faith, to reinforce you with courage, and make you understand the purpose of life. And purpose of the battle, that you are not fighting for territories or wealth or for only worldly gain, but for sake of upholding truth and honesty, the message of peace of Islam. وَمَا جَعَلَهُ اللَّهُ إِلَّا بُشْرَى لَكُمْ. Allah made this only true as a glad tidings, good news for you, these prophetic words. وَلِتَطْمَئِنَّ قُلُوبُكُمْ بِهِ. And so that your hearts are reassured by all this. وَمَا النَّصْرُ إِلَّا مِنْ عِنْدِ اللَّهِ. Otherwise, help only comes from Allah. Al-Aziz, He is exalted in might. He doesn't need any help here and there. Nor does He even need, believers, your help to crush enemies. He can do it, but He is giving you an opportunity to fight for the cause of faith. It is your good luck that Allah provides you great attention to get martyred or to please your God by your actions, to be patient. Otherwise, victory comes from Allah, Al-Aziz, who is exalted in might, Al-Hakim, and all-wise. لِيَقْتَطَرَفًا مِنَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا. All this happened so that Allah may crush the roots of a section of these disbelievers, or suppress them. فَيَنْقَلِبُوا خَائِبِينَ. So that they return, go back, totally disappointed, which happened during Battle of Uhud, despite being victorious. They left, they didn't know why they leave. They lost this, as they put it, in worldly standards, these pagan forces, Abu Sufyan's forces, lost this golden opportunity to occupy Medina. Then nothing was in between them and victory, and they could have occupied, but they didn't. Messenger, That's not your job. You have no say in these such matters, O Prophet. That Allah may turn towards them in mercy and forgive them. Or punish them. It's interesting, this you should remember, that during the Battle of Uhud, the Muslim army was disarray, disintegrated, because they had to fight both ways, in front as well as from the backside. It was a terrible moment. It was confusion, utter confusion. Muslims were running here and there, not knowing where to go, where to save themselves, how to save their lives. In such conditions, they say even some pagans, a group of people, they came closer to the Prophet, peace upon him, encircled him with the intention of, God forbid, killing him. The Black Prophet, imagine. At that time, Prophet said, I am the Prophet of Allah. I am Allah's messenger. So who is there to come to fight together with me? Some Sahaba who were almost fleeing here and there, hearing the voice of Prophet, they came all along and make a security ring against around the Prophet. These people, these pagans, they were shooting arrows towards the Prophet, and these true believers, those who were ready to lay down their lives, they used to raise their hands and take those arrows on their hands and arms. And some pagans came even closer and tried to strike Prophet, peace be upon him, with their swords. And these were the true believers who would offer themselves, offer their arms, and their arms got cut and fell down. They were without arms. They lost, virtually they lost their arms. Somebody coming with stones or hammer, these believers presented their own life. Such was the condition. And in this situation, some pagans came even closer to the Prophet. There was one named Ubda bin Kumayya. He was from the infidels, pagans. He came close and struck the Prophet, peace be upon him, with a sword on his head. But Prophet was, peace be upon him, wearing protective gear, what we now call helmet, bulletproof helmet, or whatever you call it now. And armed forces, if they would use, even wear protective gear, what we now call bulletproof chests, bulletproof jackets, as according standards of the time. This sword, he struck sword with such a force that it crushed the helmet of the Prophet, peace be upon him, and had a mark on his forehead, and blood started oozing out. And some pagan came even closer and struck the Prophet, peace be upon him, on his face, and his couple of teeth fell down and bleeding. This was the condition. It is said that time, Prophet, I have read sometime back, a great biographer of the Prophet of early 20th century, that's Shubli Nomani. He writes in Sirat al-Nabi, which is a magnus opus as far as Urdu Sirah is concerned. He writes, at the time, Prophet, a few words came to the Prophet's tongue. He said, "Oh Allah, is that nation going to prosper who hurts his own Prophet?" Though this was not any bad dua. It was not anything in language which it was okay. Can Prophet, he writes, the Prophet said, can that nation, that community ever prosper, which is bent on killing or harming their own beloved Prophet, peace be upon him? But these words were not taken, because it was Prophet's image was something greater, even greater than that. It is said this verse was revealed in response to that. "O Muhammad, you have no role in these matters. You have no role in these matters, no role for you. Maybe Allah forgives them. Those who are fighting against you now, only Allah knows. Some of them may be forgiven tomorrow. They may come back to your fold, feel sorry for their actions. Though apparently that was not possible at that time, but it was about future. They may feel sorry, they may turn back to you and go back to Allah. Seek forgiveness, Allah may even forgive them who are fighting against you in person and against your army and against Islam, your ideology. Or He may punish them. It's Allah, up to Allah, not up to you. Not up to you. You have to play your role, O Messenger, and you believers, you have to play their role. The rest, it's Allah. And that happened just after a few years. Those who were fighting against Islam and Prophet in Uhud, they told, imagine Khalid bin Walid, who was responsible for the defeat of Muslim forces in Medina, in this battle of Uhud. Turned out to be, when he embraced Islam later, Prophet would say, henceforth, he should not be called Khalid bin Walid. Don't. He should be called Khalid Saifullah. Saif means sword. Khalid, the sword of Allah. Who was responsible for the defeat of Muslim forces in Uhud. And it was through Khalid Islam reached such far a place, whether it was Africa or Asia, where no force had reached, and all the castles of Kufr fell down before him. Another person fighting in Badr, Uhud, was Ikrimah, son of Abu Jahl, Abu Jahl's son, sworn enemy of Islam. Right-hand man of his father, Abu Jahl. And with the turn of events, Ikrimah became Muslim and traveled to far-off places to fight against the anti-Islamic forces. When just after the death of the Prophet, peace be upon him, when there are many people like Musaylima Kazzab, Musaylima the liar, who proclaimed false prophethood and organized big army against Muslims. Abu Bakr, the first caliph, also organized army, and that he placed Ikrimah as the commander of the army to fight against Musaylima Kazzab, and he fought against Musaylima Kazzab, the liar. Imagine, these were the people, I cited just two examples, Khalid bin Walid and Ikrimah. There were likewise many of them. That Quran says, Messenger, you have no role here. Maybe Allah forgives them, turns in mercy towards them, or may punish them, find them zalim because they are wrong to us. And that happened. It was just where the things, what we say, shape of things to come. Great people, even fighting against Islam, turned out to be the friends of Islam, defenders of it, and who fought during Prophet's time and even after Prophet's time, during the four caliphs. They were at the forefront of Islamic forces, work as commanders or deputy commanders, and as soldiers. They reached far nook and corner of the world, known world at that time, fighting for the faith of Islam. So that is about Battle of Uhud in short, but in future we shall see in detail why did it happen. Not now, but maybe it takes some time. Sadaqallahu al-Azim wa sadaqa Rasuluhu Nabiyil Kareem walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.